Hi everyone, I'm Nicole, I'm an addict. I was expecting it to be really quiet tonight. It's roasting and the football's on. So I'm, don't know if I'm grateful that you're all here or not, I'm not sure. But here you are nevertheless on this very warm day. On Monday I celebrated 21 years of sobriety, and which feels amazing and shocking and weird and remarkable, all rolled into one, really. It's 21 just feels, sure, I'm not old enough to be 21 years sober, but it's always a time of reflection, always, for any of you who are, have celebrated your recovery birthdays. I don't know about you, but I have that as a time of reflection. And I was thinking, when I celebrated my 21st birthday of my life, I had no one, no party, no celebration, no calls, no messages. It's my 21st birthday, and I was addicted to heroin and crack and goodness knows what else. My parents asked if I wanted a cake, and all I lived on at that time, I had two things that I would eat. It would either be bran flakes with double cream and loads of sugar, because bran flakes is obviously really good for you and it's good sustenance, or I liked these tray bake flapjacks, and that's basically all I ate. Tell a lie, I also liked, that ready to roll icing. I would probably steal packs of ready to roll icing, and I would yam my way through that. So that was the few things that I would eat. But for my 21st birthday, I was given this tray bake flapjack, and it was just pitiful and miserable and lonely and not how you would want to be celebrating your 21st birthday. And yet here I am celebrating 21 years of sobriety, and I couldn't be further from that. And the people who I have in my life, the love that I'm surrounded by, there is just no comparison. And I was reading the doctor's opinion with a friend this week, and there's the bit in there where it talks about men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced. And I was thinking about that for myself, and that's it. That's my story. That is me liking the effect that something has produced. And when I was a kid, it was adrenaline. I did things to seek adrenaline, and at that time it was positive things because it was sport, and I did really well at it, and so I liked the effect that was produced from the nerves that I would feel leading up to events that I would compete in, the race, the winning, all of that stuff. I loved the effect that created for me, and I continued to chase that. I chased it for years. I chased it in many different ways, but because it was adrenaline and because it was related to sports, that was celebrated, that was encouraged, that was embraced, that was all of that stuff. It was applauded. And for me, what that was doing is it was always taking me out of myself, always, because I was always thinking about, how am I going to win this race? What am I going to do? Fuck you, I'm going to beat you. Whatever it is, that was where I was at. And at some point, I was doing all of this chasing adrenaline to the extremes, and then it just wasn't enough. And then I was just done with the lot, and I just stopped all of it. And I had so much promise and so much, I could have gone a long way with it, and then I was done. And then I'm on to the next thing. And the next thing just happens to be smoking cigarettes, taking drugs, starting on the, smoking weed, taking ease, taking speed, and taking it instantly to the extremes. There was no, I might just do a couple here and there, or this, that. It just wasn't like that. It was straight in there to how much can I take? I need to be taking the most. I'm competitive with it, needing to be the best. What does that even mean? I've taken 16 E's tonight. Surely that makes me the best. I can't move. I'm in the corner. I'm pulling the worst faces that you've ever seen in your life. But, I've nailed it because I've taken 16 tonight. The first time I drank alcohol, this is it. So when I'm thinking about the effects produced, it wasn't just actually by having it. It was the lead up to it. So it was the excitement of it. It was I'd never drunk alcohol before, and we were going to this party, and I got an empty squash bottle and I filled it up to about here with vodka to here with Pernod. The fuck? Ugh. And then about that much undiluted orange squash, because I don't know, it seemed to make sense at the time. And went to this party, downed it. I have a vague recollection of downing it, and that's it. I can't remember anything else. I couldn't tell you what else had happened. But the excitement that I had leading up to that moment, and then fast forward into me being in the grips of addiction. By the time I was, when I was 17, I was dating a drug dealer, and before I was 18, I was addicted to crack and heroin. And it was, I don't know, I developed rituals. I developed other things that were sort of associated. It wasn't just about feeling the sensation of the substance. It was so much that was sort of around it as well. And the lead up to it, the getting it, the having it in your hand. I would get relief just by having it. Like you could be in a full, I don't know, for any of you out there who, had heroin, I could have been in a full-blown cluck withdrawals. I'm like literally shitting my pants kind of thing. And then I got it in my hand and I'm already better. How is that? How is it that I'm already feeling better just by I've got it? And then obviously the next layer, I'm not like, I obviously have to take it to get myself properly out of that cluck, but I've already experienced that relief. And, it just, so it's interesting when you think about the effect that it produced and just how layered that is and how much of our lives that had taken on. And it's just been the thread throughout for me. And I chased that feeling until I couldn't chase it anymore, until I was a broken person in every which way. And I tried numerous ways of stopping, because obviously there comes a point where there isn't enough money, there isn't enough drugs, there just isn't enough. And then reaching that place of desperation and trying to stop. And I did stop on numerous occasions, having detoxes, home detoxes. And each time that I relapsed, I genuinely believed that I would be able to do it just once. It's going to be all right. I'll get away with it. I'll do it just once and it's going to be fine. And I would forget how bad I was only a week ago or even a few days ago. That's gone. And I can't imagine that I'm ever going to be like that ever again. You know, it's like that's not going to happen, because I'll be all right, because I'll do it just the once. And I've relapsed in so many occasions because of that mindset. And what I learned when I came into recovery is that is a key part of the disease that we have. And until I got to know and understand that, I wasn't able to move into recovery from my addiction. And so no matter what I did to get myself sorted out, you know, I did loads. I went in and out of rehab, did my first rehab, so 21 years old, I went into residential rehab. And in there, you are exploring your past, you're exploring consequences. You know, we can all list out consequences. Listing out consequences is easy. I don't know about you, but consequences has never stopped me. Me knowing that something's going to go wrong, it just hasn't stopped. I'm not capable of considering consequence. I'm not capable of considering you. I'm not capable of considering anything. So listing out 50 consequences to self, or 50 consequences to my parents, or whatever, what that did is it just made me feel like a piece of shit. That's what that achieved, really, because I still wasn't finding out what was wrong with me. So I'm in rehab thinking I've got a drug problem, and I'm listing out consequences. I'm not finding out that I've got a disease, that I've got a me problem. But what treatment did do is it introduced me to you guys. It introduced me to the 12 steps, because I hadn't heard of had I heard of AA? I don't know if I'd heard of it or not. It was a nothing to me. But that's, you know, I was introduced to you all, and I went to my first meeting in a church in Bognor Regis. And I was petrified. I was absolutely petrified. I didn't have a clue what was going on. I didn't know what was happening. I saw the 12 steps and the 12 traditions, and I saw the serenity prayer, and I saw the word God, and I thought, fuck this, man, fuck this. This is not for me. You know, I absolutely do not believe in God. God couldn't help me. Well, God doesn't exist, you know, it's just, this is absolute bollocks. Ah, a pigeon just landed then. That was God there.
Elephant as well.
There was a sign. Now I'm distracted. That's God, see, stopping me, slagging him off. Yeah, so I was introduced to meetings, and I still didn't understand what was wrong with me. I didn't understand what everyone was talking about, and I just sort of carried on doing what I was doing, which, to be honest with you, treatment for me was like Butlins without the drink, and I didn't know what I was doing. I went from relationship to relationship, still seeking something outside of myself, and still not grasping what was wrong with me. And I ended up in Bournemouth, in a treatment centre again, into secondary. And again, I'm still not finding out what's wrong with myself. And I was going to meetings here in Bournemouth, and started doing CA here. And CA at the time was not the CA that we know and love today. CA then was, I would say, probably, it was rare that people had worked the steps. I think I did a share there, having not worked a step. It was generally known as Gangsters Anonymous, I believe. Generally, it was more important what trainers you had on as to whether or not you could be a member, rather than whether or not you'd worked any steps or anything like that. So CA was a very different place at the time. And I was still not finding out what was wrong with me. I still didn't know what I was up against. And ultimately, well, I met my now husband in rehab, so that's a result. And we relapsed, and we've got 5 minutes now to, and it was, for the next 5 years, I was in and out, and in that really horrendous space of, I've seen that people can have recovery, I've seen that people are able to live a life clean and sober, but I can't, and I was getting 30 days here, a week here, a month here, all the time getting progressively worse. Consequences were getting worse. My addiction was just, if I thought it was already bad, it went from one extreme to another. And ultimately, I ended up, at the end of my addiction, to be honest with you, all I ever really did was fit. That was it. I would inject snowballs and fit. And that's what my using was like in the end. And on this, on a particular occasion, I'd overdosed, and I was taken to hospital, and me and Ryan we'd had to part ways because Ryan's 15 months cleaner than me, and we couldn't get clean together, and so he left me. So selfishly, shockingly so, but we'd come out of this, my parents they were at their wits' end, and in the hospital they had been told, you just need to get used to the fact that your daughter's going to die a drug addict, and that's it. You have to prepare yourself for this, because there is no other way, nothing else is going to happen. And we rang Ryan, and he took me to, early 2005, took me to the Brighton convention, CA convention. And for the first time in my life, I truly believed that recovery was possible, because Ryan held my drugs for me so that I could go to the convention. I used my way through the convention. I lied my way through the convention. I feel like I lied and cheated to get more drugs from Ryan, because of course I would. So he was supporting me to go, but I was still in the grips of it. But I was beginning to believe, I was beginning to have this experience of maybe recovery is possible. And so what came with that sense of, actually, maybe this is real, actually, maybe this is true, actually, maybe this could happen. I did everything that I could to go and get into rehab. And despite that fact, despite me doing everything I could to get into rehab, I was in there. It was my last day of detox, and I used again, because I fell foul of that belief that I'll do it just once and I'm going to be all right. And so just because I was in rehab, that's not being safe and protected. Just because I'd done everything I could to get into rehab, that doesn't mean that was the solution. None of that has been the solution. All the work that I've done to do things was never the solution. The solution was me taking these steps from the AA book. And so that day I got kicked out of rehab. I've never used again. And the difference being is I had a sponsor in place, and I went to that sponsor's house, and my God, she whipped me through those steps. And everything she told me to do, I did that without fail, without question. I went to meetings every day without fail, sometimes more than one meeting a day without fail. I got commitments at those meetings, too many fucking commitments but I did it. I did them all. It drove me mad, but I did it no matter what. And I went through the steps in 44 days. And before I was out of newcomers time, I was sponsoring the next person, and I was helping them. And before I was sponsoring, I would give people lifts, and I would talk to people, and I would reach out, even in my own early days. And my life changed transformed quickly. Oh, I spat then, sorry. Quickly, without fail, and it has never gone back to who I was before. And I had a deep spiritual experience which changed me totally and utterly. And I've never gone back, and I haven't stopped doing those things that I did in those early days of sponsorship, helping other people, going through the steps, taking the steps, doing them again, doing the practices that the steps have given me, and service. And apart from a couple of times when I was having my children and all of that sort of stuff, I've done service throughout, and I've remained consistent to this fellowship, of which I'm entirely indebted to, throughout. And 21 years later, I still do those things. And it isn't a chore, it's a privilege. And it's given me all of the things that I've got in my life that I hold absolutely dear to my heart. And it's got me through the millions of step 4s and 5. I haven't done millions, that's a complete lie. The 2 or 3, no, not really. Maybe the 5 or 6 step 4s that I've done. I always had the fears of losing my parents on there, the loss of my mum. I lost my mum 4 years ago. I was broken. It was the worst thing that I've experienced in my life. I cannot begin to tell you how horrendous it was. Did I go anywhere near the idea of using or drinking? Not once, not once. I was safe and protected throughout. It is here on offer for us all. It is totally free. It is remarkable. A few simple steps is what's required, and your life can change in those ways as well. So thank you very much, everyone. Nice one.
Thank you, Nicole.